For more than 100 years, economic power came from industrial capacity, specialized technical skills, and strong management. If you could build, scale, and coordinate people and machines, you won. But something has changed. We're entering an economy where advantage comes less from doing tasks faster and more from making better decisions at speed, with context, and with intelligence everywhere. And that's what today is about. The intelligence workforce. Not a buzzword, not a prediction. It's the emerging reality of who is going to design, operate, govern, and collaborate with AI systems to shape productivity across the global economy. The question isn't whether AI will change work. The question is, what kind of humans will thrive in the world AI is creating? Welcome back to the B.I channel, where data meets decisions. I'm your host, Solen Hale. And joining me is strategist and founder of the B.I channel, Nakel Nikiema. Nakel, it's good to have you back.
Always great to be here, Solen. And I love this topic because it sits right at the intersection of two huge forces: the future of work and the future of intelligence. Most people talk about AI like it's a tool, but what we're really seeing is the rise of a whole new operating system for the economy.
That's a strong frame. A new operating system. So let's start with clarity. When we say intelligence workforce, what are we actually describing? If someone's listening and thinking, okay, but what does that mean Monday morning at work? What do we mean?
It means a workforce that can effectively collaborate with AI, govern intelligence systems, and use data-driven insights to make decisions under uncertainty. And it's important to say up front, this is not a story about humans getting replaced. This is a story about humans getting elevated if we build the right capabilities.
So in other words, this is not just automation.
Exactly. Automation is about removing humans from the workflow. The intelligence workforce is about augmenting humans, expanding what they can do. Think of it as moving from people execute tasks to people shape decisions, with AI accelerating analysis, pattern recognition, synthesis, and iteration.
I want to underline something you said, shaping decisions, because that suggests a shift in what we're even paying people for. Historically, a lot of jobs were paid for output, documents, code hours. But this sounds like we're moving toward being paid for judgment.
That's right. The intelligence workforce is defined by a few pillars: human judgment, AI collaboration, intelligence literacy, and adaptive problem solving. It's not one skill. It's an entire capability stack.
Okay, so let's build that stack. If someone listening is a leader, a policymaker, or even just a professional trying to future-proof their career, what are the core skills that matter? I know you think about this as a kind of new skill architecture. Walk us through it.
I'd break it into 5 foundational skills. And the first is intelligence literacy. That means understanding how AI systems generate outputs, what data they depend on, what confidence actually means, and how intelligence flows through an organization.
So it's not everyone must become an AI engineer. It's more like everyone must be able to interpret the intelligence they're being handed.
Yes, just like in the industrial economy, you didn't need everyone to build an engine, but you needed people who understood what the machine could and couldn't do. Today, if you can't distinguish a reliable insight from a confident-sounding mistake, you're vulnerable professionally and organizationally.
Skill number 2.
AI collaboration skills. And this is where the conversation gets practical. People hear collaboration and think it's just typing prompts. But it's broader: prompting, yes, but also validating, refining, stress-testing outputs, and integrating them into real decisions and workflows.
So you're describing a kind of partnership discipline, like knowing when to ask, how to ask, and what to do with the answer.
Exactly. And also knowing when not to use AI. That's a big part of collaboration. If you use a system in the wrong context, high-stakes decisions, sensitive data, biased inputs, you end up with fast mistakes instead of fast progress.
That leads naturally into systems thinking, which I know is your third core skill.
Yes, systems thinking is essential because AI doesn't exist in isolation. It sits inside processes, incentives, organizational structures, and real human behavior. A worker in the intelligence workforce needs to see connections: how a data source impacts a model, how a model changes a workflow, how a workflow changes customer outcomes, and how all of that creates second-order effects.
Give me a simple example. What does systems thinking look like in a normal organization?
Sure. Let's say a company deploys an AI assistant to speed up customer service. On paper, it reduces response time, but systems thinking asks, what kinds of tickets are being deflected? Are the most complex issues now concentrated on fewer human agents? Does that increase burnout? Are we capturing feedback from human escalations to improve the model? And what happens to customer trust if the AI is wrong twice in 1 week? That's the system.
And without that thinking, you can have a successful deployment that quietly damages the business.
Exactly.
All right, skill 4, ethical intelligence. This one gets talked about a lot, but often vaguely. What do you mean by it in the context of workforce skills?
Ethical intelligence is the ability to anticipate and manage consequences. It includes understanding fairness, transparency, accountability, privacy, and the social impact of AI-driven decisions. But it also includes the operational side, knowing what governance looks like in practice, how to document decisions, how to audit systems, and how to respond when something goes wrong.
So not just be a good person, more like, know the rules, know the risks, and build habits that prevent harm.
Yes. In the intelligence economy, ethics becomes a performance capability. Because if your system isn't trusted, it doesn't matter how advanced it is. It won't scale. Or worse, it will scale until it creates a crisis.
And the 5th skill, adaptive problem solving. This feels like the most human of the set.
It is. Adaptive problem solving is what humans do when the environment changes, the constraints shift, and the data is incomplete. It's creativity, contextual reasoning, judgment, prioritization, and the ability to reframe a problem. AI helps generate options, but humans decide what matters.
So if AI gets better at execution, humans become more responsible for orientation. What are we trying to do? Why? And what does success even mean?
Exactly. And that orientation is scarce. It's leadership at every level.
Let's connect skills to roles. Because one of the most important shifts here is that entirely new job categories are forming, jobs that didn't exist, say, 5 years ago. What are the emerging roles of the intelligence workforce?
There are several, but let's name a few that are becoming real across sectors. First, intelligence designers. These are people who design how intelligence moves through an organization, what gets measured, what gets predicted, who sees what, and how decisions are triggered.
So they're not designing a product. They're designing an organization's decision system.
Exactly. Second, AI workflow architects. They integrate AI into daily operations, mapping where AI saves time, where humans must stay in the loop, and how to ensure quality. They're part strategist, part process engineer.
This is the part one think people underestimate. Most organizations don't fail because the model is bad. They fail because the workflow is messy.
That's right. Third, simulation strategists. These professionals run scenario engines, digital twins, and forecasting models. They help leaders ask, what if? At scale, testing supply chain shocks, policy changes, market swings, even climate risks, before reality forces the lesson.
So instead of guessing the future, you simulate multiple futures and prepare for the plausible ones.
Exactly. Fourth, ethical intelligence officers. These are the people responsible for responsible AI in practice governance standards, audits, incident response, and alignment with regulation and organizational values.
And that role will only grow as regulation matures and as public expectations rise.
Absolutely. And fifth, human-AI collaboration coaches. Think of them as trainers and enablement leads who help teams actually get value from AI, how to prompt effectively, how to check outputs, how to build team norms, and how to avoid over-reliance.
I like that because it implicitly acknowledges that adoption is human. It's not just software rollout, it's behavior change.
Yes. And these roles will appear in business, government, healthcare, education, anywhere decisions matter.
Let's zoom out and talk about how AI is changing the nature of work itself. Not just skills, not just job titles, what's shifting structurally?
I see 3 big shifts. First, work becomes intelligence-centric. Many roles move from executing repeatable tasks to navigating decisions. The output isn't a stack of tasks completed. The output is better judgment, faster learning loops, better prioritization, fewer costly mistakes.
So the unit of value becomes the decision, not the task.
Exactly. Second shift. Productivity becomes augmented. In many domains, humans plus AI will outperform either alone. It's not that AI is always more accurate, or humans are always more creative. It's that together they cover each other's weaknesses, if the workflow is designed well.
And the third shift.
Careers become more fluid. Skills evolve faster than job titles. People won't have one stable role for 10 years. They'll have a capability portfolio that gets updated continuously. And organizations will hire more for adaptability than for narrow expertise.
That's both exciting and unsettling. Because stability has been the social contract for a lot of workers. Learn a field, build seniority, climb. But in a fluid economy, the latter turns into something more like a navigation problem.
That's a great way to put it. The intelligence workforce is defined by adaptability, and by the ability to learn new tools, new contexts, and even new definitions of success.
Now, one thing I want to explore is how this is playing out globally, because not every region is building this workforce in the same way. There are different models emerging. If we look across regions, what patterns do you see?
We can map a few regional tendencies. In APAC, we often see what I'd call the real-time workforce. Many economies there are emphasizing operational intelligence, workers trained to respond in real-time environments, with dashboards, predictive systems, and rapid execution loops.
So speed, coordination, and continuous optimization.
Exactly. In Europe, we see a strong emphasis on the ethical workforce governance, transparency, and responsible AI. A lot of capability building is tied to regulation and public trust, with a view that innovation must be bounded by rights and accountability.
That makes sense given Europe's regulatory approach. What about North America?
North America, especially the US, often reflects the innovation workforce. Frontier experimentation, entrepreneurial adoption, rapid productization, and the cultural expectation that workers will continuously rewrite how work is done.
And then LATAM?
LATAM is building what I'd call the resilience workforce. There's a focus on using AI to stabilize systems, public services, logistics, healthcare access, financial inclusion, and to manage volatility. It's not only about growth. It's also about continuity and robustness.
And Africa, often discussed in terms of leapfrogging.
Yes, the leapfrog workforce. Many ecosystems are mobile-first, bypassing legacy infrastructure. That creates an opportunity to build intelligence capabilities in a different order, using lightweight tools, local languages, and community-driven innovation. But it also requires investment in skills, connectivity, and governance to ensure the leap is sustainable.
What I'm hearing is that there isn't one single global model. Each region emphasizes a different dimension: speed, ethics, innovation, resilience, leapfrogging. But they all converge on the same reality. Intelligence is becoming the core economic resource.
Exactly. And the workforce becomes the interface between national strategy and economic outcomes.
Which brings us to risk. Because the optimistic version of the story is new tools, new productivity, new kinds of work. But there's also a dangerous version. What happens if countries and organizations don't prepare their workforce? What's the cost of being late here?
The risks are significant. You get skill gaps, of course, meaning workers can't use the tools that define modern productivity. That leads to stagnation. But it also creates economic inequality, because the benefits concentrate in the hands of organizations and individuals who are intelligence fluent.
So we could end up with an intelligence divide that looks like earlier digital divides, except faster and more consequential.
Yes. And another risk is dependency on foreign intelligence systems. If a nation doesn't develop local capabilities, skills, governance, and strategic understanding, it becomes reliant on external platforms for critical decision infrastructure. That isn't just an economic issue. It can become a sovereignty issue.
When your decision systems are imported, your leverage is limited.
Exactly. So building the intelligence workforce isn't optional. It's a national priority and an organizational survival strategy.
Let's turn the corner into solutions. If a leader is listening, someone in government, education, enterprise, what's the roadmap? How do nations and institutions actually build an intelligence workforce instead of just talking about one?
I put it into 5 moves. First, modernize education, not just by adding AI as a subject, but by teaching decision-making with data, critical thinking, and systems understanding across disciplines.
So it's woven into everything, rather than isolated.
Exactly. Second, integrate AI into every profession. Teachers, nurses, lawyers, engineers, public administrators, each profession needs a tailored version of intelligence literacy and AI collaboration skills.
That's a big one. Because if AI training is only for the technical elite, you never get broad productivity gains.
Right. Third, teach intelligence literacy as a baseline capability like reading and writing, but for AI-era decision systems. People should understand what models do, where errors come from, and how to check outputs.
And fourth,
build ethical intelligence programs. That means governance frameworks, compliance training, audit capabilities, and clear accountability. Responsible AI shouldn't live in a PDF. It should live in how work is done.
And the fifth move,
create lifelong learning ecosystems. Because the intelligence economy changes too fast for one-time education to be enough. You need continuous upskilling, micro-credentials, employer-led training, partnerships between universities and industry, and public support for res-killing at scale.
So the message is, this workforce doesn't emerge accidentally. It has to be designed.
Exactly. The intelligence workforce is built intentionally, through policy, organizational strategy, and a new cultural expectation that learning never stops.
Before we close, I want to give listeners something concrete. If someone is listening and thinking, okay, I buy it, but what do I personally do next? What's one practical shift a professional can make this month to move toward intelligence fluency?
Start treating AI like a thinking partner you must supervise, rather than a magic answer machine. Pick one recurring task you do: writing, analysis, planning, research, and build a loop. Ask the AI for a draft, challenge it with counterexamples, verify with sources, then refine. That loop builds collaboration skill and judgment at the same time.
That's great. And for leaders listening, managers, directors, founders, what's the one shift?
Stop measuring adoption by logins. Measure it by outcomes and decision quality. Ask, are we making faster decisions? Better decisions? Are we reducing risk? Are we learning faster? And then invest in training and workflow design to make those improvements real.
Because if you don't redesign the system, you just add a tool to a broken process.
Exactly.
As we wrap up, here's the thesis I'm taking away. The intelligence workforce will define the next era of global competition. Not simply who has the most advanced models, but who has the people and institutions capable of using intelligence responsibly, creatively, and at scale. Nations that prepare their people will lead. Organizations that build intelligence fluency will compound productivity. And individuals who develop judgment, collaboration, and adaptability won't just survive this transition, they'll shape it. Nakel Nikiema, thank you for being here.
Always a pleasure, Solen. This is one of the defining conversations of the decade.
And thank you for listening to the B.I channel, where data meets decisions.